Okay, so in this talk here, we're just going to talk about World War Z novel, and it was released in the 12th of September 2006. So this is a novel of about World War Z, about zombie apocalypse, and it says here, although the origin of the zombie pandemic is unknown, the story begins in China after an unknown creature bites a young boy who becomes the official patient zero. The Chinese government attempts to contain the infection and concocts a crisis involving Taiwan to mask their activities. The infection is spread to other countries by the black market, organs trade, and by refugees. So, an interesting pointers here. Just happens to be in China that this coronavirus was meant to be originating from. And then in this book here, it just happens to be China that this pandemic eventually takes place. And the Chinese government, tries to use masking techniques. Well, I find it interesting that the situation with the coronavirus is that you've got the Chinese police trying to cover up the so-called coronavirus. Okay, and then you've got the infection is spread to other countries by the black market, organ trade, and by refugees. So I find it interesting that a type of marketplace is where some people were believing that this coronavirus was meant to have taken place in. Then now let's look at some predictive programming of the movie World War Z. And it says here, 1 minute. When you watch the movie, I was looking at the movie in iTunes. When you look at 1 minute and 50 seconds into the movie, it talks about the avian flu. So this to me is almost like they're connecting flu-like symptoms with this zombie virus thing. It's almost like they're interchanging with it. And then, of course, 2 minutes and 5 seconds, it talks on how viruses changes in a way that there is transmission between humans. Right? Of course, they're trying to get that idea in our heads. Remember, this is a 2013 movie, remember. And of course, 2 minutes and 26 seconds, the WHO is giving guidelines to governments, which of course has been happening now. 4 minutes and 19 seconds, Brad is watching the news and it says martial law is being declared by the government. And of course, I would not be surprised if this was to eventually take place. So don't be surprised if it does happen because of this movie here. 40 minutes in the movie, there is a panic shopping scene, except it's people stealing. And of course, we've been having that as well. A panic buying. 20 minutes in movie, Brad Pitt turns on radio in a family home because he's trying to escape from the zombies in this family home. And the news tells everyone to stay indoors if at all possible. And of course, governments are telling us to stay indoors. 30 minutes and 48 seconds, UN headman talks on that there's no transportation. And of course, I find it interesting that the United Nations, or WHO, I think it was, talks about possible food shortages, things like that. And of course, and says that the virus, the headman in the UN, in the movie World War Z, he says that the virus has spread to all corners of the globe. Don't you find it interesting that the so-called coronavirus is meant to be going all over the world, which is told to us by the WHO. Now, after the scene, there's some kind of genius man. He talks about the zombie virus and he's speaking about the Spanish flu as well. So again, it's like they want to put the idea of flu-like symptoms in our heads as if it's, 44 minutes and 55 seconds. The CIA sells guns to Korea, and Korea is winning against the zombie virus. Okay, in the movie. Nowadays, if you you actually find in any research that Korea is meant to be the safest place to protect against the coronavirus. Right? You see the pattern here? And then, of course, you've got 59 minutes and 49 seconds. India is said to be a black hole. I find it interesting that the Rockefellers and Bill Gates, who are also connected to WHO, messed up India with the drug treatments, okay? We're just going to read this here. Bill Gates and Rockefellers caused the disaster in India and Pakistan. It was Gates and the Rockefellers, already infamous for vaccines related to sterility, to make people sterile, and GMOs, which are also can make people sterile, who caused the human catastrophe and who then used the WHO to cover it up by labeling the staggering amount of paralysis cases as non-polio paralysis. Okay. Now, of course, 1 hour and 50 minutes into the movie of World War Z, on the plane, the pilot says to the passengers that all airports in Europe are on lockdown, and of course that's been happening as well, hasn't it? Putting the airports in lockdown because of the coronavirus. Then, of course, you got 1 hour and 30 minutes and 34 seconds. Brad Pitt discusses with WHO members to use a drug injection that has a disease in it to mask us from the zombies. Okay, so basically, Rockefellers and Bill Gates, they would love this propaganda movie here that, oh yeah, dangerous drugs will help protect you from the coronavirus. That's basically what the message is saying here. Now I find it very interesting that you've got Bill Gates here in an article I found. I think this is in the Daily Mail. Let me look. Yeah, Daily Mail. .co.uk. I'll leave the link. You can read it for yourself. Basically, Bill Gates in a 2019 Netflix documentary. Bill Gates had predicted a killer virus could originate in China's wet markets to rapidly infect the world. Now there you have it. What's going on here? And then, of course, a couple of months before the pandemic in China, they had the event 201, where they simulated a global virus pandemic, right? Right, and talking about economic problems, they were talking about in this simulation. I mean, if you just look at all these facts, out of all the countries in the world, right, that could be having some kind of virus in them, it just happens to be China that they're focused on. Yeah? Like as if, China is the only country in the world that can only be the place to have a disease. Like in every other country, including places like South Africa or malaria, things like that, all these other countries around the world, it's almost like as if they don't even have any diseases. It's only China that's capable of having that. I mean, come on, this is just stupid. This is, right? They're brainwashing us. It's so obvious, right? So Bill Gates can make a lot of money out of his vaccines. It's really a big, huge business plan to sell a lie to everybody, so they can make a lot of money out of the public, especially when billions of people, to try and get vaccines to them. So do your own thinking. This does not make any sense. Why it just happens to be China, of where the outbreak was meant to have taken place. So, yeah, I'm convinced the whole thing's a complete fraud because of my analysis here. And bye for now.